The moment I refused to co-sign a six-figure loan for my brother's failing dream, I knew things would explode. But I didn't expect my own parents to turn against me or threaten me with legal action at our annual family barbecue. What they didn't know, I came prepared. With receipts. With proof. And what happened next tore the whole family apart, forever. At 33, Nathan had built a quiet but solid life for himself in Austin, Texas. A successful IT engineer, he lived in a modern but modest apartment, kept his schedule tight, and rarely asked for help. He liked it that way, order, control. But there was one thing he couldn't control, his family. Nathan's father, Frank, was a retired military man, stern and old school. His mother, Diane, was more nurturing but passive, always trying to keep the peace even when things spiraled. And then there was Brandon. Brandon, Nathan's younger brother by 5 years, had burned through every opportunity handed to him. First, it was a car detailing business. Then a failed crypto startup. Now it was some luxury lifestyle brand that didn't even have a website. Every time he fell, the family looked to Nathan to pick up the pieces. And Nathan did. Again and again. Tuition payments. Bailouts. Emergency rent. Quiet loans that were never paid back. Somewhere along the way, Nathan had become the family's unspoken safety net. Not because he wanted to, but because no one else would. He never complained, at least not out loud. But lately, the weight was growing heavier. The calls came more often. The expectations were louder. Nathan had started to realize that being the responsible one came with a price, one that no one else seemed willing to pay. What started as love had quietly morphed into obligation. And he was starting to wonder, was this still family, or just a debt he kept paying? It was supposed to be a casual Sunday. The family had gathered in the backyard of Frank and Diane's suburban home for a barbecue, a monthly tradition Nathan had grown to quietly dread. The air smelled of grilled ribs and charcoal. The sun was out. Brandon was already 2 beers in, boasting loudly about venture capital interest in his latest idea. Nathan stayed quiet. He sipped his iced tea and avoided eye contact. He knew something was coming. There had been hints in Diane's voice on the phone earlier that week. Tension in Frank's brief text inviting him. And now, the moment arrived. Frank cleared his throat, the grill's smoke rising behind him like a signal flare. "We've decided to cancel the family vacation," he said. The words hung heavy in the air. Brandon shifted uncomfortably. Diane reached for her wine. Nathan looked up, confused. "Why?" Frank didn't hesitate. "Because Brandon deserves support. He's your brother. He's trying. And we can't just stand by while he fails again." Nathan blinked. "So, this is about the loan?" "Yes," Frank replied. "He needs $210,000. You can afford it. You've always helped before." Nathan shook his head slowly. "This isn't helping. This is enabling." Then came the real blow. "If you won't do your part," Frank said coldly, "then don't expect to be part of this family anymore. And don't be surprised if you hear from our lawyer." Nathan's face didn't change, but something inside him broke clean in two. No yelling. No pleading. Just silence. He stood up, left his half-finished plate on the patio table, and walked toward the gate. Behind him, the family barbecue continued. But for Nathan, something far deeper had burned. As Nathan drove home from the barbecue, silence filled the car. No music. Just the low hum of the road beneath him and the storm building behind his eyes. Images flashed through his mind like a cruel slideshow. Brandon's first emergency, a broken-down Honda Civic in college. Nathan had wired him $1,200 that night without a second thought. Then came the unpaid tuition. Brandon had dropped too many classes, lost his scholarship, and showed up at Nathan's door in tears. Another $7,000 gone. Credit card debt followed. "A temporary setback," Brandon had said. Nathan covered $4,500 just to stop the collection calls going to their parents' house. And the wedding, how could he forget? Nathan paid for the entire event, venue, catering, even the open bar. Over $25,000. 8 months later, Brandon and his wife divorced after a drunken fight that ended with police being called. Each time, Nathan had told himself it was the last. Each time, his parents had thanked him, briefly, before moving on like it never happened. But they all remembered today. They remembered the one time he said no. He gripped the steering wheel tighter. Not out of rage, but out of clarity. This wasn't about a loan. It wasn't even about Brandon. It was about a family that had confused love with obligation, that had mistaken silence for consent. And somewhere along the way, Nathan had let them. Nathan didn't sleep that night. Instead, he sat at his desk, methodically combing through every joint account, co-signed loan, and shared financial thread he had with his family. There were more than he remembered. He started with the shared savings account his parents had set up, just in case. He removed himself as a contributor and quietly closed his access. Next, the credit card he had opened for Brandon years ago when Brandon's own credit was wrecked. Nathan called the bank and canceled it without a word. Then came the co-signed car loan. Brandon's car, Nathan's name. He contacted the bank, requested a transfer of ownership, and froze any further access until the paperwork was done. Finally, the investment portfolio he had built but had foolishly let his mother co-manage. In a few clicks, he changed the permissions. Sole access. Sole owner. By 3:47 a.m., everything that had once bound them financially was severed. He didn't leave a note. He didn't announce it. Just action. And as if the universe was synchronized with his resolve, the calls started early the next morning. His mother was the first. Nathan? What happened to the account? I can't access anything. Is it a glitch? He could hear the panic bubbling beneath her voice. He stayed calm. No, I've just reorganized some things. It's all under control. Then came Brandon's email. The subject line, seriously? A wall of text, full of accusations, selfish, ungrateful, manipulative. Brandon blamed him for everything. Then Nathan didn't reply. He just stared at the screen, letting the silence say everything. This wasn't revenge. It was correction. For the first time in years, Nathan was reclaiming something no one in his family had ever asked him about. Boundaries. It started with an Instagram story. A shaky video. Brandon, eyes red, voice cracking, tears rolling down his face. My own brother ruined my life, he whispered. He left me stranded. He promised to help me, and then he just cut me off. Like I meant nothing. Within minutes, dozens of comments flooded in. Emojis, prayers, virtual hugs. You don't deserve this, Brandon. Family should never turn their back on you. Your brother sounds toxic. Nathan watched in silence. Then came the post from his mother. A filtered photo of an old family dinner. Captioned, "Family isn't supposed to betray each other." Hundreds of likes. A few of her friends left passive-aggressive comments. You raised your boys so well. This must be so hard. It was a coordinated strike. Emotional warfare. Public guilt-tripping. But Nathan didn't flinch. Instead, he opened a new folder on his desktop, receipts. He uploaded screenshots. The car repair bill from 2018, paid by him. The tuition confirmation, Brandon's name, Nathan's credit card. The $12,500 wire for Brandon's wedding. A text thread. Can you cover my rent this month? I swear it's the last time. And then, the audio clip. Brandon's voice, just weeks ago. Look man, if you don't help, I'll tell Mom you threatened me or something. You know how she believes me over you. Nathan posted nothing with malice. No insults. No bitterness. Just facts. Quiet, undeniable facts. He shared it in a private post, visible only to mutual family friends. The silence that followed was louder than any accusation. One by one, the comments stopped. Some were deleted. Some friends messaged him privately. I had no idea. I'm so sorry, Nathan. It was the first time anyone had said that. And for the first time, he didn't feel crazy. He felt seen. It was a Saturday afternoon when the doorbell rang. Nathan looked through the peephole. His father, Frank, stood stiffly at the front. Behind him were Diane, his mother, arms folded, lips pressed tight. And Brandon, in sunglasses, chewing gum, like it was all some joke. They had come together. United. Angry. Nathan opened the door slowly. Frank was the first to speak. "We need to talk. Like adults." Nathan raised an eyebrow. "Adults don't ambush people." "We're not here to fight," Diane added quickly. "We just want to understand why you're tearing this family apart." Nathan stepped aside, letting them in. His living room was quiet, neat, the air tense with unsaid accusations. Brandon flopped on the couch. "You really think you're better than us now, huh?" Nathan didn't answer. Instead, he picked up his phone, tapped a folder, and played a recording. Brandon's voice filled the room. "Nathan's basically an ATM with Wi-Fi. Just press the right buttons and boom, rent paid, car fixed." Silence. Diane's mouth fell open. Frank looked at Brandon, stunned. "Wait, you said that?" Diane whispered. Brandon's jaw tensed. "It was a joke." Nathan interrupted. "Come cold." "No. It wasn't. You meant it. That's how all of you have seen me for years. Not as your son. Not as your brother. But as your emergency backup fund." Frank tried to stand, defensive. "That's not fair." Nathan cut in again, firmer. "I'm done being fair. I'm done being useful only when you're desperate." The air was thick heavy. For once, Nathan didn't shrink under their voices. He stood tall, eyes clear, tone steady. "You came to talk like adults? Then listen like adults. No shouting. No chaos. Just a man setting his boundaries, and not backing down." Nathan walked to his desk and retrieved a slim binder. He placed it gently on the coffee table. "This," he said, "is 5 years of helping." He opened it. Neat, color-coded tabs. Receipts. Wire transfers. Venmo screenshots. Credit card statements. A spreadsheet with dates, purposes, amounts. $1,200 for Brandon's car repairs. $5,000 for his failed crypto investment. $800 for a marketing course he never finished. $13,500 for the wedding that ended in divorce 8 months later. Page after page. Diane sat frozen, eyes darting between the papers and the floor. Frank didn't say a word. Brandon, red-faced, leaned over the documents. "You kept records? What kind of brother does that?" Nathan met his gaze, unflinching. "One who's tired of being erased the moment he says, no." Brandon's voice cracked, rising. "How could you do this to me? To us?" Nathan answered quietly. "I've always helped you, that's the problem." His voice was calm. Not angry. Not defensive. Just tired. Done. "You think love means blind support. That I should empty my life just to keep patching yours. But that's not love. That's enablement." He paused, watching Brandon squirm. "I kept track because I knew one day you'd forget all of it and accuse me of abandoning you." Diane finally spoke, voice trembling. "Nathan, we never wanted it to be like this." "I know," he replied. "But it is." He closed the binder. "I didn't come here to punish anyone. I came to stop punishing myself." The room was still. No one moved. No one spoke. The binder lay on the table, closed but heavy, like a tombstone marking the end of something long buried. Nathan stood. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't cry. But his words cut deeper than any shout. "I'm not anyone's lifeboat anymore." He looked at his mother, whose lips trembled but couldn't form words. At Frank, whose hands were clenched on his knees. At Brandon, who had gone pale and quiet. "For years I bailed this family out. Quietly. Willingly. Hoping maybe one day, someone would see me as more than a wallet." He let the silence stretch for a few seconds. No one interrupted. No one dared. "But every time I set a boundary, you all saw it as betrayal." He exhaled. "So let me make it clear. I'm done. I love this family, but I won't keep sacrificing myself to be part of it." No one responded. Not a word. Diane blinked rapidly, fighting back tears. Frank looked away. Brandon opened his mouth, then shut it again. Nathan stepped back, giving them space. His posture was calm. Resolved. He was no longer begging to be understood. He was done explaining. "If you want to talk to me, really talk with honesty and respect, I'm open to that. But if you're here just to guilt trip or take, don't come back. He walked to the door. Opened it. No dramatic music. No slamming. Just the sound of quiet footsteps leaving one by one. For the first time, no one had a comeback. No manipulation. No pleas. Just silence. And for Nathan, that silence wasn't emptiness, it was freedom. 3 days after his family left in silence, Nathan sat at his desk, a quiet resolve burning in his chest. He opened Reddit. Then Twitter. He had never been someone who posted about his private life, but this wasn't just about him anymore. He began typing. Being the financial safety net for your family sounds noble, until it drains you, depletes you, and leaves you empty. I'm 33. An engineer. I've paid off my brother's debts, covered his wedding, his failed business, even his car repairs. My parents said it was just what family does. But when I finally said no, after years of yes, they turned on me. I was told I'm selfish, heartless. They threatened legal action. I didn't retaliate with anger. I responded with facts, receipts, bank statements, recordings. This week, I finally said, I'm done. I'm not your lifeline. I'm my own person. He hit post and shut his laptop. By morning, the post had gone viral. Tens of thousands of comments poured in. People from around the world shared their own stories. Silent burdens, one-sided loyalty, emotional blackmail wrapped in family. The hashtag family isn't debt exploded across platforms. Support came from therapists, financial experts, even influencers. Setting boundaries isn't betrayal, it's survival. Nathan scrolled through the comments. One read, I thought I was the only one. Another, you just put into words everything I've lived for years. He felt something shift. Not just in the world, but within himself. For the first time, he wasn't alone in his experience. And more importantly, he no longer felt ashamed for choosing himself. 2 weeks after Nathan's viral post, the silence shattered. Brandon had tried to apply for another business loan, this time without Nathan's backing. The bank said no. His credit history was a mess, and without Nathan's solid name attached, the application didn't even get past the first review. That night, Nathan's phone rang. It was his mother. Nathan, honey, we didn't mean what we said. Your brother is just under a lot of stress. Please, can we just go back to the way things were? Her voice was soft, cracked at the edges, part guilt, part desperation. Nathan didn't answer right away. He was sitting on his balcony, watching the Texas sky darken into a bruised blue. He finally said calmly, I can't go back. That version of family nearly destroyed me. The next day, an email landed in his inbox, from Frank. Subject, you think this is over? You humiliated this family. Publicly. You want to act like a martyr? Fine, but don't think there won't be consequences. Nathan stared at the words. Before, those threats would have shaken him. But he closed the email and filed it under a new folder, Emotional Blackmail. He realized something. The family wasn't collapsing because of him. It was collapsing because the truth was no longer being hidden. And for the first time, Nathan wasn't rushing in to save it. He was letting it fall. Just as the storm seemed to settle, Nathan received a call he didn't expect. It was from Harold, his grandfather, now in his late 80s, once a stoic presence at family gatherings but long removed from daily drama. Nathan, the voice crackled through the phone, deep and steady. Come see me. Alone. An hour later, Nathan sat across from him in a small sunroom at Harold's modest home on the edge of Austin. No small talk. Just truth. Harold leaned forward, hands clasped around a manila envelope. I've been watching, he said. All of it. The lies, the manipulation. They've used you like a wallet with a heartbeat. Nathan didn't know what to say. Harold slid the envelope across the table. That house your parents live in? It's still in my name. And I've signed over control to you. Nathan blinked. What? They've had it easy for too long. Time they faced the consequences. You're the only one who's earned the right to decide what happens next. Nathan opened the envelope. Deed documents. Notarized. Legal. I don't expect you to kick them out, Harold said. But I want you to know you're not alone. You never were. You've just been the only one brave enough to stand up. It was the first time in months Nathan felt a sense of warmth in his chest, not guilt, not obligation. Just clarity, support, family, the way it was supposed to be. As he left, Harold placed a hand on his shoulder. Do what's right, Nathan. Not what's easy. 30 days. That's what the notice said, pinned to the front door of the house Frank and Diane had lived in for over 2 decades. Delivered by courier. Signed by Nathan. There were no confrontations, no phone calls this time. Just stunned silence. Frank sat in the kitchen, staring at the letter. Diane wept quietly in the living room. Brandon? No one knew. His social media accounts were gone. Wiped clean, like a ghost. Nathan didn't watch it unfold. He didn't need to. Instead, he was standing on the balcony of his new apartment. A modest, modern unit on the 4th floor, overlooking a quiet tree-lined street in downtown Austin. A place that felt like his, finally, not bought out of guilt, not shaped by obligation. His days became simple again. Mornings with black coffee and no missed calls. Evenings reading, walking, breathing. For the first time in years, his finances were his own. He didn't post another takedown, didn't respond to the lingering emails. He had said what needed to be said. Done what needed to be done. But in his journal he wrote, "Sometimes the only way to save yourself is to walk away from people who only love what you can give them. Love isn't currency. And family doesn't mean sacrifice without limits." Nathan wasn't bitter. He was free. The scars were real, but so was the strength that came after. A new life doesn't always begin with a celebration. Sometimes, it begins in silence, in a place of peace, on a quiet street, with a man finally choosing himself.